Okay. The most of the information for this from this presentation comes from these three sources: Ingrid's Notes, which is a blog on creative writing; the Portable MFA in Creative Writing, that's the orange book up here. That book is by various different authors and it kind of follows an MFA program. The section of notes that I've the section I've extracted information from is by Tim Tomlinson. It's Chapter 2 on fiction, and then also The Plot Thickens by Noah Lukeman. I'm going to read you a quick excerpt from the Tim Tomlinson section. Characterization through action and detail. Stories are about events that happen to people. If we like the people, if we identify with the people, if we recognize the people, we are likely going to be compelled to read about those events. The question is, how do we create characters readers will be interested in? How do we avoid cliches, stereotypes, or one-dimensional characters? And one of the best ways to do this is through characterization. Describing who the characters are and revealing to the reader what type of person that character may be. Characterization is best done through action and detail. I'll show you exactly what that means. We have two lines here. First is Bernstein cared a lot about his golf game. We have an example of direct characterization here. We learn that Bernstein cares a lot about his golf game. That's it. Very informative, not very descriptive, kind of boring. Now look at this next line. Bernstein slammed his Ben Hogans into the trunk of his Toyota. Essentially, it's the same sentence revealing the same information about the character, but we have action and we also have details. The action of Bernstein slamming his golf clubs down into the trunk of his car reveals a lot of things about him. It may show that he's careless, that he's angry, that he's upset, frustrated. He may be angry about his game. Maybe he lost the golf game he just played or played poorly in the golf game. He may be angry about something else that is distracting him and affecting his golf game. There's a lot of different things that we can, take from these lines. Also, there's a lot of details. We get the specific type of golf clubs, the Ben Hogans. This may reveal what type of golfer he may be. If he has Ben Hogans versus maybe Titleist clubs. Sometimes specific brands are associated to what type of golfer you would be. Maybe a very serious golfer. Maybe those clubs are cheap or expensive. That reveals about what type of person he may be as well. Also, we get a specific type of car that he's driving. It may reveal his social economic status. A Toyota is a lot different than a Mercedes-Benz, and you can infer a bunch of different information from that. As Balzac, the famous French novelist, would say, "Show me what a man owns, and I'll show you what he believes." All these details reveal a lot about our character. And keep in mind, in short stories, you don't have a lot of time to waste, and you can really bring forth that characterization through action and through detail of your characters, rather than spending a lot of time trying to set up your characters and describe them to the reader. Another important thing to think about in terms of your characters is you really need to get to know them. And a good way of thinking about it is approaching your characters like actors do. Actors will study the part that they're playing inside and out. They kind of extract every single little detail about that character so that they can have the most realistic and vivid performance on stage. And that's something you want to do with your characters, especially with your lead. This information is taken from Ingrid's blog, and I showed you the link earlier. It's from an interview from Rachel Vale. She's a young adult writer. She writes books for teens about her approach to writing and what she has learned from taking acting classes over the year in terms of developing characters. So the first thing that she says, you must know everything about your character. Where were they the moment before the scene you're writing? How did they sleep last night? This will affect the scene and how the character behaves. This was an acting lesson Vale learned before going on to stage. So thinking about in terms of sort of the psychological state in which your character is in and other things that may be affecting their actions. Like if you didn't get a lot of sleep last night, obviously you're going to be tired, a bit distracted. That is going to affect how the character is seen on the page. Next thing, what does your character want? What does your character enter the scene wanting? An actor's friend of Vale's told her that the way in which he keeps scenes fresh night after night of doing the same show is by changing what the character wants as they enter the scene. Each time I do the show, I have a different motivation. Now, in a short story, you really don't have that luxury, but keep in mind, if you're very clear about what your character wants by the end of that story, that motivation is going to kind of drive their actions, and we'll be able to reveal a lot about the character through that. As hard as it can be to get into character, it can be just as hard to get out of character. Now a little bit on body language. Before I can know a character, I need to know them emotionally and physically. So you really want to get to know your character inside and out. What are they like? What is their mental state like? What is their physical appearance like? How do they move about the room? How do they speak? Really kind of getting inside that character and seeing the world through their eyes will develop a more genuine, authentic character that the reader will really be interested in. All characters walk from a different part of their body. This is called the center of the body. Some people are centered at the forehead and walk with their heads down. Others are centered from the chest and have a confident walk. For instance, drunks often walk with their shoulders first, kind of that dragging approach to walking, almost like hunched over or slumping. How does your character walk and move through space? So think about it in terms of how that character moves from place to place, how that character takes up space. Are they a character that is really attention starved and they take up a lot of space when they enter the room? They're very loud and they make their presence known. Or are they a character that more is very shy and doesn't want to attract any attention, so it's kind of slumping over and has their head down a lot? Those different things and those different characterizations, descriptions of characters, are really going to reveal a lot about that character's actions and the process that they're going through throughout your story. Lastly, for instance, for a book about ballerinas, Vale learned all about how ballerinas hold themselves, posture, how they walk, etc. They often hold their hair back, they don't cross their legs. These small physical effects change the whole way in which Vale saw the characters. This is really important to think about, especially if you have a specific type of persona that you're trying to convey in your story. In terms of maybe a profession, say your lead is a police officer. Think about what police officers look like, think about how they act. You don't want to really get too hung up on stereotypes, but some of those generalizations can be used to kind of put a very realistic spin on your character. Today you're going to be working on 2 different character assignments. We'll be doing the police sketch in class, and then the character bio will be something that you will be doing on Schoology.